أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم تلك آيات الكتاب الحكيم هدى ورحمة للمحسنين الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون ومن الناس من يشتري لهو الحديث ليضل عن سبيل الله بغير علم ويتخذها هزوا أولئك لهم عذاب مهين وإذا تتلى عليه آياتنا ولى مستكبرا كأن لم يسمعها كأن في أذنيه وقرا فبشره بعذاب أليم إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم جنات النعيم خالدين فيها وعد الله حقا وهو العزيز الحكيم.
أعوذ من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So I took these verses because we are talking today about rethinking arts and culture, and this is one of the main verses that is used by some of the literalists, the Salafi, to make it clear that singing is haram, as it is connected to one of the words that we have here. And beyond this, before coming to this discussion, which will be part of our discussion, let us talk about and try to get the very meaning of what is said here. 9 verses that are important in the way they are structured. And once again, this is almost all the surah here has been revealed in Mecca except 2 verses. This is the main position among the scholars, and then it's a Meccan revelation. If we come from the beginning, once again, something which is very important in everything that is important for us, and we have to get it from the beginning. Again, the 3 words, the 3 letters that we don't know what is the meaning of it. So this is a book revealing a message, starting some surah with letters that we don't know what is the meaning, which is always balancing the fact that we have to get a sense of getting to the knowledge with a spiritual sense of humility. So this is something which is very important, a message where at the beginning of some chapters we have letters. No one can tell us what is the meaning. Even the Prophet ﷺ never gave the secret of these letters. And once again, just don't get with these letters like this. If you read them, and the al-qira'at ta'abbudiyya, when it comes to this, it's very important to start by getting this. These are letters that is a message telling you this is coming from Allah and you are coming close to Him through the revelation, but the revelation is telling you that there are limits to your understanding. So deep with your heart, so the way you are, and it's quite interesting, even in Al-Qur'an, the way they are pronouncing, it's full of beauty in the way they have to read the letters while you don't know what it means. You know, it's something which has to do with this very important connection between beauty and unknown, and the secret that is coming through the message. It's also something which is quite important here. And then we have the first verses are all the light, the enlightened side of the revelation, when it is said, "Tilka ayatul kitab al-hakim." Once again, that you have the divine right and full of wisdom. Al-Kitab al-Hakim is full of wisdom. Once again, this is something that we have very often in the Qur'an, and this is the beginning. Remember, during the first 13 years, Allah is talking to the believers, He's talking to the Prophet, to the Messenger, alayhi salatu wassalam, and then coming that, so be careful. This is a book full of wisdom and giving you what? It's two things. And once again, when we come to the Qur'an, it's always important to understand that first, Al-Qur'an is not a book of rules. It's a book of guidance. So it's hudan wa rahmah. Hudan is because you can go astray, Allah is coming to you, coming through history and tell you, come. There is here a direction. So it's a book coming with a dhikr, al-hakim, which is a dhikr here. It's the remembrance of the way. So meaning the book is the revelation of a direction, so that you have to follow. And this direction is coming with al-rahmah. Al-rahmah, shifa'un wa rahmatun lil-mu'minin. The Qur'an is at the same time something that is curing, purifying yourself, and a mercy coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once again, the book that we have here, it's out of His mercy, and this is why we understand وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. You are but a mercy, yourself as a model and the message as the light coming with you. So once again, it's all about us understanding هُدًى وَرَحْمَةً لِلْمُحْسِنِينَ. But for very specific people, muhsinin, it's not here, it is not said mu'minin here only. Muhsinin is al-mu'min. You know when you read الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ هو المحسن. Al-muhsin is the one who has the light of faith and is doing good. So both al-ihsan here is at the highest level, is the connection that you have between what you believe in and what you do. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه. It means that you worship Him as if you were seeing Him. What does it mean? It means that what you believe and what you do is as if He is with you. The opposite of this, and this is why when you do something which is not right, is as if you don't believe. Because when you believe with al-ihsan, is as if you were seeing Him. But if you do bad, it's as if you don't see Him. It's as if at that very moment, as the hadith is saying, you don't believe in Him. Because if you are believing and having the ihsan, which is believing and doing good deeds, it's as if you are seeing Him. So here is once again the very word that we have, lil muhsinin alladhina, and then you have the visible side of it. The visible side. So the deep side of it, it's what the two words that we have, hudan wa rahmah. So this is the very essence of the message. And now what do you have to do? It's coming just after الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. Look at the connection here. And this is where we have to understand something which is very important. يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. Once again, the two things that are essential here, remember, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq saying, anyone who is coming to differentiate between a salah and zakah, I'm going to fight against him. Meaning, it's as important to purify your heart than to purify your money. And in these days, it's very important to get that is salah and zakah are going together. And very often in our way of getting the priorities, we think about purification of the soul, of the nafs, but not the purification of money. And you can't get purification of money if you don't understand the world. So when you say as-salah wa zakah, it means as-salah as to yourself, as-zakah as to the world. So it's the double purification, because you need to know how it works. And this is what? Al-ihsan. Al-ihsan is not only in the way you are with your heart, it's the way you are with your money. And the way you are with your money is this interaction with the world. So it's the vertical dimension, the horizontal dimension. This is why we have the two main pillars of Islam. The two first, not the main pillars. The two first pillars are like this. And وَبِالْآخِرَةِ, meaning they know something which is important, that all these has a goal, a purpose. وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. They know that they are going back to God. They know that there is a meaning in this life. So why is it important to have a verse like this? And just to ponder in the way it is constructed and built for us. The sentence is أقيموا الصلاة آتوا الزكاة وبالآخرة هم يوقنون, meaning you do this because there is a meaning. So there is a meaning that you are coming back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not just an obsession with the rule, it's understanding the rule in the way. Huda. Hudan. So it means that you know that you have to go somewhere. So this is something which, once again, is always to be connected in Islam. Be careful of any Islamic discourse obsessed with praying and not telling you, but one day you will die. Because you pray, because one day you come back to Allah. That's the very meaning of it. وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. They know that one day it could happen. So this is why life is fragile. Between two salah, you can die. Between two salah, you can die. Between two Fridays, you can die. So the very meaning of life is there. And this is what we have here when it said, not only الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. And remember, this is the beginning of the revelation. This is to put in the hearts of the believers the very essence of Islam. And remember that Islam started not by saying you have to pray, but to tell them you are going to die. Remember, the first verses of the Qur'an, it's all about look at the world. You are going to die and you are going back to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming to the people to say, look at nature, look at al-fajr, wal-shams, wal-duha, and all this, and you are going to die. Look at earth, the way it could be dry, and once again, Allah is bringing life again. You understand this, and now you understand the meaning of salah. And then you understand the meaning of zakah. You give zakah because you purify your money, because one day you will be asked about the money, as much as you are going to be asked about your heart, as much as you are going to be asked about your health, about everything. Why? Because there is a meaning. So there is a point here, which is Imam al-Nawawi was saying, this is Iman al-Tajir, that you give something to Allah because you know that you are going to be rewarded. But this is a step. But a human being should go through this. You go and go beyond Iman al-Tajir, but you have to go through it, because you do something to get something. And then the more you go deeper in your heart, it's all about love. First you give to receive, and then you give because you love. That's the relationship with Allah. But first, to all the people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about them, say, okay, you are going to come. So remember, I gave you life, you give me deeds. And believe. And then one day, if you go really ihsan, that you are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can reach something which is beyond that. But to reach something which is beyond that, you cannot just say, I love Allah without bringing anything, without showing anything, without praying. Because praying is your answer to His call. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اسْتَجِيبُوا لِلَّهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ. You have to answer His call. He's calling you to do something. Why? Because this life has a meaning. أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. That's the starting point of everything, just after you believe in Him and you understand the meaning of ihsan. And then there is also something here which is again repeated. We had hudan wa rahma at the beginning. أقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة وبالآخرة هم يوقنون. And just after this, what we have, again, look at the way it's built. أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. So, على هدى من ربهم. هدى at the beginning, على هدى. It means that they are following a path. And following a path is something which is going to be very important in everything when we speak about Islam. Not only, in spiritual terms. It's in legal term which is important. And you will see that the problem that we have with some of our brothers and sisters in the way they read the Qur'an is that they read the Qur'an in the verse as to the meaning of the rules, not getting this meaning that there is huda, there are objectives. So all the school of the maqasid, for example, that came later and built on this was always saying, okay, what is the meaning of the rules in al-huda? In the direction, in us trying to reach the goals. Because at the end, this is it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting something which is important here, which is al-muflihun. Muflihun could be the successful. Al-falah could be also something which is joy, happiness, well-being. It's not only the success is, you will get that peace we are talking about. So there is something which is important. Follow the way, respect the rules, and you will get success, and you will get that peace, which is once again what we find in Surah Al-Fajr. Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna. At peace means you follow the rules, you get the meaning, and you go the right way. Hudan linnas, which is exactly twice, just before and after we have twice the word hudan. Look at the way it is put here, as we have it here. على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. Remember that when we are asked to come to pray, حي على الفلاح. So come to the success, come to the very understanding here that there is a well-being in all this. And then comes this verse that is so problematic. That was the discussion among the scholars for years and centuries and up to now. Up to now, we are dealing with this verse when it is said something which is important here. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Look, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ, among the people, there are people who are purchasing or what? The idle talk. The commentator, Tabari, said that, and this was confirmed by Ibn Taymiyyah, confirmed by Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, said idle talks meant, and look at this, singing, music. So in fact, idle talks is not exactly this, but referring to one hadith coming from Ibn Mas'ud, reported and confirmed by Ibn Abbas, this is where the Salafi are saying this is referring to music, because there is a hadith. And then when you come to this is the translation of the Salafi. Okay, you get this translation here, and you get, look at this, just for you to be clear that you cannot miss it. And of mankind is he who purchases idle talks, i.e. music, singing, etc., to mislead men from the path of Allah without knowledge. And this is referring to a hadith, which is commenting this. Ibn Hazm said no. That's not an interpretation that we cannot just lay lahwa al-hadith as singing, which is the differentiation that we have among the scholars. It's about interpreting some of the words that we have. The Salafi are saying based on this, and then referring to other ahadith, where these other ahadith are saying that, for example, the Prophet ﷺ said there are people who will make it acceptable sexual intercourses, drinking and music, and connecting, and silk and music. This is the hadith, which is a hadith sahih, al-Bukhari. So saying, and then as it is there, they are saying, in fact, this hadith is confirming our understanding of the fact that anything which has to do with lahu al-hadith is music. So coming from this interpretation to these verses, and having another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he heard music, he put his fingers like this, and he turned away and said, this is the confirmation that this is wrong. So two hadiths, one verse. This verse is open to interpretation. Dhanni. Why? Because the word here is based on an interpretation coming from a hadith saying, Ibn Abbas is saying that what is there, lahu al-hadith, is music and singing. If you read it as it is, it's just about the way it was translated here or translated by others, this idle talks or anything that is distracting you from the path of God. Why? Because you have it just after this when it is said, يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Once again, look, everything that we have here has to do with al-huda and as-sabil, that we are following a path. So anything that could distract you from following the path is problematic. And this is where we will find the differences between the scholars. Now, is any kind of music distracting you? Or is everything that we are talking, idle talks, is referred to music here? This is where the scholars, the great majority of the scholars, by the way, agreed with Ibn Mas'ud, confirmed by Ibn Abbas, and relying on the hadith, the great majority. It's only few scholars who said, no, that's not the meaning of it. That, in fact, we have many interpretations. And at the end, based on different interpretations, we have three main positions coming from the scholars. The first one is this, the literal understanding of, not the literal, the understanding of this based on the literal understanding of Ibn Mas'ud. saying this has to do with music, haram. That's, you cannot do this. Why? Because music, by definition, is distracting you from the right path. By definition, music is just distracting your heart and soul from remembering God. This is one interpretation. Okay? You have another interpretation saying, no, lahu al-hadith, it's much more open than that, is in fact anything that is distracting you, but it could be verbal, it could be music, it could be anything which in fact at the moment you go to it or you use it or you do it is distracting your mind from remembering Allah, which is not music per se. Because this is why? Because in fact the Prophet ﷺ once was at home and he was with Abu Bakr's daughter, and he accepted for them to sing, and when Abu Bakr as-Siddiq asked him to stop, he said, no, this is the time of joy, meaning he accepted this, meaning that's not the point. And interpreting the hadith that was connecting alcohol and sexuality and silk with something which is the music in such an environment, it's bad. And here it's the connection between music and the environment, not music per se. Got it? It's not the essence, it's the environment. It's, you are in a setting where this is going to be permitted. If you start with this, you will go as far as the music will be used in this environment to open up to things that are haram in essence. But it's not music in essence, it's the environment. And you have, Ibn Hazm is just using this by saying, first, by the way, he is also critical to one of the transmitters. But that's not the discussion that we have here, but just to come to the discussion that we have about the way we are interpreting the ahadith. And you can see here that there is a room for interpretation. So it's a zanni text, okay? It's open for interpretation. And it has been made by Salafi qat'i, by saying, no discussion. Lahu al-hadith, we know what it means. We don't exactly know, and this was disputed. And this is something which is very important in everything which has to do with our rules. If there is one scholar who might put some doubt and is legitimate to do it because he has the knowledge and he's coming with argument, even if it's the only one, we have to listen to him to know what is he's saying. For example, the Sufyan al-Thawri in anything which has to do with hukm al-ridda. He was of the opinion, against the majority, that you can't kill somebody because he or she changed her or his religion. He was of this opinion. This was the 8th century, not now. The 8th century, he was saying, no, that's wrong. The Prophet ﷺ never did that. And he was of the interpretation that this was in times of war. So you have one. The point here for us is, in our tradition, if only we use our tradition and we study our tradition, we have to be very, very careful to differentiate between al-ijma' al-tam, which is consensus, and even the consensus which is complete, full consensus. If the text is silent, it's still open for discussion. Why? Because it's not the text. If there is ijma' tam, and Hamidullah, the Professor Hamidullah, was of this opinion by saying, look, the people who are telling us when there is ijma', even the companions, if there is ijma', it means what? It's not in the text. It's not the Qur'an. It's not hadith. If we have a hadith qat'i, it means we don't need an ijma'. The text is there. Ijma' is what? Is people coming together, scholars, human beings such as us, and coming with an opinion. So why is it that we don't discuss this? Because this is, ijma' means what? Ijtihad. Ijtihad means what? Your mind, my mind. So we have to discuss it. So there is a very important point here. Even in ijma' al-tam should be open for discussion in history. Even in ijma' al-tam. Now, there are levels of ijma', of course. But when it comes to something which like this, which is, it's not an ijma', it's al-jumhur, almost an ijma', but still we have one or two. We might have to stop and ask ourselves why they didn't agree with the position of the majority of the scholars by saying there is a problem with the language here, there is a problem with the hadith, and there is a problem between the link that we are creating between the verse and the hadith. And this is where, on this, the three positions are coming. One, by saying haram. Music, it's per se not there. The second was saying, but the Prophet ﷺ accepted this. So, for example, it could be that the drums, because this was the way music were at that time, or among women could be accepted. So it could be among women, or it could be just the drums, because this was what he accepted. So you understand that even when they opened the door, they are literal in the instruments that were used. They are literal with the text or literal with what was done. So if they say, look at the way he accepted this, so we do exactly the same. And when you look at al-huda, what the path, the objectives, you say, in fact, what is important here, it's not what the instruments that they used, but what he accepted them to do, which is to have time for resting, what he said to Hanzala, sa'atan wa sa'a, 1 hour to pray and 1 hour to rest, to have this entertainment. This is the way you are as human being. Meaning, as long as this time was, that you have with singing is not distracting you from the very essence of your life or putting you in a situation where you forget Allah, that could be okay. Because this is what it is said here, لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, meaning bringing you or making you lose your way. So as long as it's not this, you can consider anything which has to do with singing. So this is the example with singing, that you will find exactly the same position when it comes to anything which has to do with movies, anything which has to do, even the taswir that we have, that the people who are going to get the more, the tougher chastisement in the hereafter are al-musawwirin. So the people who are creating or suwar, which is what is suwar here. So some were saying anything which has to do with a taswir, because we have the same word now with anything which has to do with camera. For years, for example, in Saudi Arabia, they were saying photographs is haram. And then they accepted this as identity card. It's okay because this is a necessity. And then they say taswir is not exactly taswir that we are talking about. Now, taswir could be something that had a shade. So it's sculpture. Because you are competing, because you have another hadith saying, be careful not to compete with the creation of God. So once again, if you look at all this, the literal understanding of some hadiths could lead you towards something which is no music, no sculpture, no painting, and no movie, and no theater, haram. No discussion. Why? Because you are imitating and you enter into a competition as to the creation, which is the literal understanding, and you cannot just deny the fact that based on some ahadith, when you read them literally, it's there. You can understand that. Now, the point is that the literal understanding is there, but this is a position among Muslims that we have when it comes to verses like this one. Are we allowed to say to somebody who is reading the text literally, you are wrong? You can't do that. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, once he said, لا يصلين أحد العصر إلا في بني قريظة. No one is going to pray al-Asr before coming to Banu Qurayza. You know the story? 2 groups. One said, لا يصلين أحد. Nobody is going to pray. He said it, we don't pray. Literal understanding. Others said, no, he meant, hurry up to be there before al-Asr in order to pray the Asr. But it's Asr now, we have to pray because Asr is Asr. So they had al-Salatu ala waqtiha, so we have to pray. 2 groups. They came to him and he accepted both. Meaning something which is very difficult sometimes, that you have the literal understanding of some of our brothers, and you cannot deny that it has a legitimate support. Now, it can be problematic here, because even here you can say, is it really a literal reading? It's not a projection. For me, it's not the literal reading. It's a projection onto a word that doesn't mean music. So you can discuss here the literal understanding. But still, when you have scholars who are coming from the Salafi and relying on some of the ahadith, and it's literally like this, you cannot say, this is not Islamic, you are wrong. That's one interpretation. And it helps us, all of us, when you are for music or when you are for arts, at least to acknowledge the fact that some are saying it's haram. There are two things that are important here. First, it helps us to have an intellectual humility as to our own answers. That's okay, that's my answer, but yours is yours. As long as you don't tell me that I'm less a Muslim than you. These are two different interpretations. There is a second thing which is interesting, is that sometimes when you are dealing with literalists, even when it comes to arts, it's good to have some of them around us, because sometimes they remind us of some of the verses that we have to be careful, that it's always good to have arts, but be careful. The objective is sabil, al-huda wal-rahma, means don't forget God in what you are doing. Because, we can start with love of God and end up loving what we do and forgetting Allah. At the end, arts, this is, shaitan shaghal even in beauty. So you start by the beauty, say, MashaAllah, and at the end you say, it's beautiful. And you forget MashaAllah. So this is why there is balance even in our community. We don't have one central authority. We have different points of remembrance. That some are coming with the verses, others are coming with the ahadith, and others are coming with what we can do, as long as we don't forget as-sabil. We don't forget the path. We don't forget the objective, al-falah, which is this success that we are talking about. So this is a verse here that, and as I told you, there are three positions. And these three positions, remember something which is important. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali was saying, if you look to your imam, you look at somebody around you who has the knowledge. So he is acknowledged as somebody who has the knowledge. You can just go to, so your imam in your region, and Al-Qurdubi said, the most knowledgeable where you live. Two things. Where you live, the most knowledgeable. He said this 1 century after Abu Hamid al-Ghazali said two other things. He said, the more knowledgeable, but the one when he gives you answer to your questions, he puts your heart at peace. So there is a sense of well-being in what, and sometimes you can, whoever you are, some of our brothers and sisters, min ahl al-azima, they are very strong. They like when it's clear cut. It's haram or halal. So tell me it's haram, haram, I want like this. So you can't say the only interpretation is the one you like. The only interpretation is not the one you like. The only right interpretations are the interpretations that are right according to the text. Now, it could be sometimes literal, it could be sometimes open, and it could be sometimes based on the maqasid. And you have to respect this, knowing that for you, you will find your own answer. But understand something, that even if you find your own answer, it's always good to have other answers, because it helps you to be humble as to your response and questioned as to your intention. It's always good to have a literalist just around you saying, what is your intention? Do you want rid Allah, or you like something else in all what you are doing? Being checked by other understanding of the texts. That's also important. This is the way we should deal with our diversity, not by being divided, by being, having something like complementary or to complete each other in the way we are. This is the balancing of this diversity. Now, having said, how much time do I have still till the Maghrib? Okay, ومن الناس من يشتري لهو الحديث ليضل عن سبيل الله بغير علم ويتخذها هزوا. Once again, ويتخذها هزوا, as you have it here, is just to ridicule or to take it as something which is not so important. And once again, in the world of arts, in the world of imagination, there is something which is a risk. Here we have the connection with lahw al-hadith, which is idle talks, is something which is superficial. If you are within the field of arts, you understand that there is a big difference between arts and entertainment. Arts could be entertainment, but it's deeper than that. So you can have people who are confusing between spirituality and emotion, making what is spiritual emotional, superficial way of dealing with spirituality. And you can have people dealing with arts and making arts only entertainment, which is the superficial side of it. Allahu Jamil yuhibbul Jamal means something very deep here. Is Jamal with meaning. Meaning what? Meaning remembrance. When you see beauty with Allah, you say, MashaAllah. And when you see beauty, forgetting Allah, you think about the creator, the man or the woman who did it. So you forget the ends, the goals. It's always good to celebrate the skills, but when you celebrate the skills of somebody and the product of what he or she did is something which is always connected to Allah, at the end, you can thank Him for what you are doing and thank Him for what you are producing. Why am I saying this? I'm saying that thanking Him is always something which has to do with remembering Him, remembering the very meaning of this, which is once again what we have here. The very beginning of the verse is about the goal of your life. وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. They know that something is coming. Even when you are creative, even when you do something, be careful. النفس لوامة, that's النفس الأمارة, as you know, that is pushing you to look at yourself in a way which is forgetting this. So arts and beauty and creativity could in fact be a way where you celebrate Him or you celebrate yourself or you celebrate the nafs in any way. When you sing, be careful. Al-Qur'an, when you say Al-Qur'an, sometimes you can see this. You can see with Qur'an, the way they read the Qur'an, you understand that in nafs shaghal. They are very happy with their voice. So they are using it. Say, the shirk. Be careful. Is it for Allah or for yourself? And if you add to this that some are taking money with the beauty of their voice to read Allah's words, and they are taking lots of money, I say, okay, there is something wrong in the whole business, because it's a business, as you know. It doesn't mean that you cannot get money with something that Allah gave you, a voice, but you have to be here always to check your intention in the way you are dealing with this, with the means and the goals. And arts, it's about this. Arts, it's about means and goals, of course, but of course the intention. And this is why, for example, when I was writing to be a European Muslim, I came with the 4 conditions that are so important for the scholars who are saying music is possible, painting is possible, drawing and all this is possible, as long as you check your intention first. What do you want to do? Why are you doing this? Second is the substance of what you are doing. This has to be ethical and Islamic. Don't come with something haram and say it's about beauty. No, the beautiful haram is haram before being beautiful. That's the first point, which is important. Second is where, in which environment. Very important here. Where are you putting the people? Because if, for example, the type of music or the type of lyrics that you can have, the type of painting, the type of drama, everything, the substance and where it's done, it's very important. Are you helping the people to elevate or to forget? Is this a way to elevate within the path or to forget the path and to be lost? That's very important. And then you are also responsible, and get this, also responsible of what you nurture in the people who are looking or listening to what you are doing. It's the responsibility of the message that you are sending. And this is why you get this in one of the verse. لا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم. لا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله. Meaning, don't criticize the people in what they believe. They will end up criticizing you and criticizing Allah with no knowledge. Criticizing Allah. Meaning, you are responsible of the reaction of the people. So if you insult, they insult. So don't insult because you don't want them to insult Allah. Not you, Allah. Meaning that when you are creative, you have to be very, very aware that what you are sending as a message, if you send a message which is full of haram or forgetfulness or anything that is nurturing in me a sense of arrogance, a sense of pride, a sense of, loving this life, forgetting the hereafter, there is a problem. You are sending the wrong message. So your intention as much as your target, your audience. What do you want to send as the message? You are a mediator between Al-Qur'an al-Kareem in As-Sabil, helping the people not to forget the goals. That's the very essence of what you have to do. Arts in this is possible. So some, as I said, are saying, no way. Arts, by definition, is helping you to forget. That's one thing. Others are saying, literally taking from the instruments in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and others are saying, no, it's not about the instruments. It's not about the means. It's the way you use them based on your intention, based on the substance, based on the environment, and to whom you are sending this. 4 conditions that you have to take into account when you are in this world of creativity and imagination. As long as you are respecting this, there is something that is open. In the school of the Maqasid, this is something which is very important, but be careful, because many scholars, many fuqaha, they are right on this. I would agree with them that we are so much going to the objectives that, as I told you once, that we are forgetting, the rules. The haram, that you cannot just, you can't do things that are haram per se and by definition in order to get something which is a halal maqsad. A halal objective with halal means doesn't work. With haram means, haram means for a halal objective doesn't work. So this is where you have to get this. And in the world of arts, it's very difficult. Why? Because, in fact, there are 3 things that are here at stake. It's the world culture is sometimes connecting arts with entertainment in a way where you add to this business and money. So the environment is not safe. The intention is not clear, and the objectives is not always ethical. So with all this, how are you going to navigate in this world based on what we are talking here, which is the added ethical value in the world of arts and even entertainment, because we have to deal with entertainment here, which is also important. And just to end here, what is said, بغير علم ليتخذها هزوا, meaning, not to take this seriously as the way you have to follow the path. أولئك لهم عذاب مهين. وإذا تتلى عليهم آياتنا ولا مستكبرا. And once again, look at this, because this is something which is important. There is an attitude in the people who want to distract the people from the path. There is something which is very important. You find this in whom? Who said this? When people are using superficial discussion to distract you from the way, you will see 2 or 3 features that are always the same, that you find where? With Iblis. Iblis said, أنا خير منه. Arrogance, I'm better. Using the superficial to avoid the essential. And you will see that the people who are using the superficial to avoid the essential, in between the superficial and the essential, there is the ego. And you have it here. Mustakbiran, meaning with arrogance, it's not important enough for me. That I am saying, it's so when what you say, what you are saying, you think it's more important than what is coming to you. When your ego is more important than the path, you are outside the path already. In the world of arts, when you are a creator, the ego is at stake. Where is I here? I did this is it. I, between what I, so be careful in the intention. When you create something, and you know this old discussion in the Middle East, are we creator or people who are composing, taking something that there is the only one creator? This was a big discussion in Christianity. That you don't say that you are a creator. There is only one creator. I said, no, this is just playing with words. At the end, I'm creating something. No, you create out of nothing. But if you create out of things, it's not a creation, it's composition. You are taking from here and there. I'm not going to take this discussion on board here, but the point here at the end, if you are creating, there is the very big discussion of the ego. And you can see, I always remember this. When I said to Yusuf Islam, the first time I met him, please come back to music. This was my position. because my position is that it's not haram. I said, Allah gave you these skills, come back. He told me, he was telling me about his past, saying, I was an idol. I was like a star, and that's not working. He had to break his ego to come back as a servant, 28 years, to come as serving God, because he was before this serving his ego. And all the business is about your ego. It's you. It's Cat Stevens. So the Cat Stevens, and at the same time he was in trouble. He was not happy with this. But the point is really in everything which has to do with arts. Today, arts and entertainment is very much based on a culture of ego and consumerism. Exactly the opposite of what Islam is all about. It's not about ego, it's not about consumerism. It's about elevating and giving. Islam is elevate your soul and give. The world today is bringing you into something which is a jihad. So there is something which is called an artistic jihad, or jihad of artists. If art is not haram, it's a jihad. How do you serve? How do you elevate? And how you keep the intention. That's it. So this is the added value of Muslims in this, because this is exactly what we have here as something which is essential in our discussion. And then there is something also which is important, is that it's as if he doesn't listen to what you say, and there is waqra, there is something which is preventing him or her from listening. You know what is the first step of what? This is the first step of what? لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها أو يعقلون بها لهم أذن لا يسمعون بها أعين لا يبصرون بها, meaning this is the first step of kufr. Because kufr is when your heart is veiled and sealed, and it starts with this, when your ego is becoming to take. So it could be that in fact, and this happened, that in the world of arts and world culture and whatever, at one point your ego is such a reference for you that you don't hear, that you don't listen, and you lose your way. That's it. That's the point. It's always good to have a Salafi coming to you, Lahu al-Hadith. It was written. This is Lahu al-Hadith. You are forgetting because you are following superficial thing and the essential. So make music talk about the essential and not music talk about the superficial, because the superficial is leading you to your ego, and your ego to your arrogance, and your arrogance, dallat tariq, you are lost. Because the starting point of being lost in the path is arrogance, when your ego is taking the whole thing. And the last thing that I wanted to add here, وَبَشِّرْهُ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Again, we come back. This is just the path that we are following. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَهُمْ where is that? Oh, not here. لَهُمْ جَنَّاتُ النَّعِيمِ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقًّا وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. So once again, coming back to the end of this, you know, the starting is about what is good and what we have to follow, the risk, and something that was read by some scholars in a literal way, and then you have something which is coming back again, know that this is the path and this is where you are going to be rewarded, and this is the success. Having said that, the whole discussion here, once again, remember, we are at the beginning of the revelation, meaning the first 13 years. It's an educational process, coming with the essential, coming with the point that we have to get and to understand. And out of this, the way we dealt with this verse, we can take, as I said, all the different types of arts, and you can get exactly the same: intention, substance, environment, and the target audience. What you are saying to the people, you have to be careful with the people. And then you look at the objectives, al-maqasid or al-maqsad, and the rules, once again, because what I am saying about the intention and what I'm saying about the substance has to do with the rules. That the big discussion about, for example, we had a discussion in one of our seminars about, is it possible for two actors to kiss in a movie when they are not married, while in fact they are married in the movie but not in real life? So what do you do with this? So the main position was haram. That's not possible. You are not Muslims for just the time of the movie. And the sister who was involved, what is her name? She is the petite mosque, Zarqa. Yes, she was there. And she said, so what we did, we took two non-Muslims because it's allowed for them and not for us. Sheikh Judea said, no, that's not possible. You cannot ask the haram to people because they're not Muslim. It doesn't work. So that's the point. What do you do with this? So you can just have two actors that are married to have such a... Okay, so things that... these big discussions that we have as Muslims, they are not there in the real life of Hollywood. It's not going to happen there. But we have to have these ethical questions. How do we do it? Because these are simple things, but are very important. Can you ask non-Muslims to do things that you cannot do because it's allowed for them and not for you? Some scholars would say yes. The great majority would say no, you can't do that. And so shall we avoid all these things? It's not going to work in anything which has to do with serious, movies or professional at that level. These are the ethical questions that we have when it comes to movie, when it comes to drama, that your experience could help us to understand how you are dealing with these situations in painting, in music, and in all these situations. Walhamdulillah, wallahu a'lam, wa a'la, wa ahkam.